welcome to the Insomnia Project. You're listening to this podcast. I hope you've been listening for a while, and if you haven't, well, welcome to the fold. I'm the host, Marco Timpano.
I'm Amanda Barker. I need you all to know that when Marco gets on the mic, his face is very animated in a way like a little child, about to discover a gift.
Well, yes, this is a gift, and that's our co-host, Amanda Barker. And, of course...
I thought I said that, didn't I?
No, you just said it, I'm Amanda Barker.
Well, what else am I if not co-host?
Well, I said I was a host, and you didn't say you were a co-host,
well,
so I didn't want people to be confused.
It's more your show, let's be honest.
Well,
is it? Or is it?
I think it's both our shows.
I feel like because you do the bulk of the work. I just mean I feel like I'm a third, and you're 2/3.
Amanda shows up and records, and that's what she does.
I'm not a giving partner in the podcasting world, but I'm giving in other ways.
It's true. She woke up this morning in tears, and I said, "What's going on?" And she's like, "I'm reading a book," which one of our listeners thanked us for because you mentioned it.
I'm surprised she thanked us because I have 30 pages left, and it's destroying me.
We should mention the book again. Remind people what you're reading.
I have to remember the name of it. The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot. I believe I've got that name right.
And the end seems to be bringing tears too.
It brought tears in a moment that I didn't expect the tears.
Okay.
And now I'm like, I needed to put the book down. I've got 30 more pages, and I don't know how this is going to end, but I've already cried my face off. So.
I see. And do you enjoy being emotional, like when you go see plays or when you read books? Like, do you enjoy that, or do you not enjoy that?
It's such a good question. I mean... Yes and no. I love burying myself in a play, or a book. There is that escape in a book, a really good book. You just escape the world. And that's such a magical, it's the transformative power of art, right? And I feel that way about theater too. You were saying plays, when the lights go down. I love it when I go to see a show, a play, a musical, whatever. And I don't know anything about it. So then I am just along for the journey, however they want to present it, however it affects me in that moment. I think it, and a movie too, to be honest, I think it does a disservice when you've read too much.
Yes.
Trailers tend to give away the whole movie these days, or maybe they always do.
So you're not bringing your own bias to the endeavor.
Or everyone says this play is so good. Well, let me be the judge of that. Is sometimes.
Yeah. In fact, you're the type of person who will go in there with a negative thought when everybody tells you.
I hope not, but you're probably right. Or just that idea of, it's one of the reasons I love the Fringe Festival. Now, I know we have a lot of listeners in the UK, so they will say fringe theater, kind of meaning anything that's not West End, independent theater.
I disagree with that because the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is a big
I just know that Victor, who lives in London, will say people will say, I did a fringe show, and they don't mean it to mean in a festival necessarily. Right. I mean, I think the Fringe Festival got its name because it was a bunch of independent theater companies putting together shows.
And I thought it was that got their name because a lot of the people who came to see the shows were wearing fringy type things.
Really?
Yes.
No. So whatever fringe means to you, but the Fringe Festival in Toronto, one of the things I used to do that I loved was I was on speaking of being critical, on a jury for a sort of sub-festival called the Best of the Fringe, where 10 plays or shows anyways would get chosen and get a reboot at benefit to the company kind of thing in a week or two after the festival itself. And it was a lovely way to experience a ton of shows and to just for 3-4 days immerse myself in theater.
Because you were expected to see shows that you wouldn't necessarily see so that they could get a viewpoint from all the people who were there to agree which shows should be highlighted.
And what you would do is they had a team of us out there, and you would text the main person and you'd say yes, no, or second look. And so they would send a few people out to each show, because if they were all no's, then they would be like, okay, we're going to bypass that one. If they got yeses or second looks, then, and second look means, opera's not my thing. This was an opera show. I think for some people it could have meaning. It didn't work for me, but but it was good in terms of production quality or whatever.
Speaking of opera, there's an opera coming to Toronto that I really want to see, and it's coming in the fall, so I'm going to buy tickets for it.
What's it called?
We've never gone to see an opera, you and I, and
No.
I do enjoy opera. Do you enjoy opera?
I've only been once, and I have to be honest, I didn't. My friend Victor, who I was just talking about, he must be in my brain today. I saw it because that's how he got his equity card.
Okay.
They needed like 10 men to move set pieces around and be part of the show. And so he got his union card that way. And so it was an opera. So we went to see him in this opera.
My question isn't, who did you see in an opera?
It's the only time I went, and I didn't love the opera, but it was fun seeing him.
Oh, maybe I take someone else. Maybe I take Trevor instead.
Oh, okay.
Well, you said you don't like opera. I want to go with someone
I've
who likes opera.
gone once, and I didn't enjoy it, to answer your question.
Well,
But
Victor won't be in this production, so maybe you'll enjoy it more. It's Nabucco by Giuseppe Verdi.
Okay.
Or Verdi, I should say. And it's there is a piece in it that I'm really excited to see.
Okay.
So I want to see that. And it doesn't often get performed because it's a really large cast, or it's supposed to be a really large cast.
Well, don't overhype it, because I would like to go. I feel like I've already gotten bumped for Trevor.
I know, maybe I'll bump. All right, we'll see. We'll see. We'll
Am
see
I
if you...
opera probation.
You're a little bit on opera. No, I'll see it with you, but you go in with an open mind.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't hype it for me.
Well, I'm hyping it for me because I'm excited about it.
Okay, but then that's the problem. Then you go and you're like, it was okay.
No, the problem is you'll be whispering in my ear what you don't like about it when I'm trying to enjoy it. Well,
that's not true. Is it true?
It's true.
We went and saw a Broadway show recently. Did I do that?
A little bit, not too much.
Okay, well, there you go.
We saw Elephant for Water. Elephants for Water? Water for Elephants.
Memorable, huh?
This is where our friend Bill...
Based on a pretty famous book and movie.
Bill gets upset. He's probably read both the book and the...
He's probably seen the Broadway show.
Yeah. It was okay. I mean, here's the thing. The circus is never my thing, right? But
Okay.
I thought we'd be excited because there'd be acrobatics, which there was.
But the problem is, if you go see in Cirque du Soleil a lot, I mean, it's not going to be that. It's a Broadway show. And so they have 7 circus performers. They were good.
They were good.
And they also have to sing and stuff,
For me, a musical, and let me just say this as a side note, because I think we're going to go into musical territory now. I'm not the best person to talk musicals about because I don't love musicals, but I do like opera. So for me, it has to have a memorable number.
Okay.
And this particular show, for me, did not have a memorable number.
It's nominated for 7 Tonys, so people do like it. They had a lot of aspects that I really enjoyed. Overall, I was a little underwhelmed, but again, the problem is you go in going, it's a Broadway show, you better blow my socks off.
Sure.
And I don't know that my socks were blown. You know what I mean?
Are there shows you've seen, Broadway or not, it makes it seem like we go to Broadway all the time,
I know,
that have blown your socks off?
I have seen really beautiful and wonderful performances and plays on Broadway, and those are actually the ones that stand out more to me.
Okay.
I saw Scarlett Johansson, who was not an actor I had any kind of affinity for, really, prior to that, but I saw her on Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and I went into that thinking, oh, she's too young for that role to be Maggie the Cat, and she was excellent. And the show was quite good as well. And I had seen already a production that is still my favorite production of it that I saw at Stratford years ago. And again, thought, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this, and loved it. Maybe I just loved that show. I don't know. But so that one stands out. I saw an Edward Albee show, and now I'm trying to remember what the play is called, A Quiet Place. I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
But it had Glenn Close and...
John Lithgow.
Thank you.
So they had the B team in.
Yeah, they were the understudies. John Lithgow and Glenn Close. And you go in knowing their film work and hoping for the best, and it was truly wonderful. They were fantastic.
That's great.
So wonderful in their roles and just so great. So I do think it is possible to have high hopes and have them matched,
I saw Les Mis here in Toronto way back when it was first here.
Mm-hmm.
And I went with a bunch of people from school.
Mm-hmm.
From high school, we went, a bunch of us, not with the school, but on our own, because we wanted to be, that was a thing to do. We got all dressed up, Amanda,
That's
and we went to go
nice.
see it, and really enjoyed it. Knew nothing about it, but just knew that it was like the big hit. And I was like, okay, let's go see this play. And I think I enjoyed it more than anyone who went to go see it.
I'm just looking up this Edward Albee name of this play.
Whereas Cats, when I went to see Cats, which everybody talked about and everybody loved, it made no sense to me. And, you know, bunch of people dressed as cats jumping around isn't
I'm
my
with you
thing.
on Cats. Cats does nothing, and I don't understand why it was so popular. I forgot Martha Plimpton was also in that show. What a cast. It's called The Delicate Balance, for anyone who's
Delicate Balance.
wanting
Wasn't
to
I
know that.
in an Albie show?
If you were, I don't remember.
What's
you were
the
in a
one?
David Lindsay Abaire show.
David
That's-
Lindsay Abaire,
no.
yeah.
No, one's much younger than the other. But maybe not by much. So Les Miserables, I believe that there are musicals for every generation of young theater hopefuls.
Okay.
So when you're thinking of the theater camp kids, of which I for sure was one anytime I could be.
I was not.
Yeah, so we have different backgrounds that way. How come you weren't a theater camp kid?
I think it's because I can't sing, and musicals are too much singing for me.
Okay, that's
I'm more comedy.
okay.
And a lot of musicals are let's dance and let's sing and let's not.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You know, like Bye Bye Birdie. I know this is
Okay.
going to be a controversial episode because people are going to love these particular
No, there's
musicals.
nobody on the planet that's like, you know what's my favorite musical? Bye Bye Birdie. That's not possible.
You never know.
Not under the age of 93.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
listen, we have some older. Don't knock
No, it's true.
noxagenarian.
No, you're right. You're right. That's not fair.
spleen.
That's not. I only say that because, as I was saying, there are musicals for every generation.
Right,
So
sure.
maybe people in their 80s and 90s, that was the musical of that time that they fell in love with, and that's really possible. Because actually, my mom likes Bye Bye Birdie. Now that I've said that, she's in her 70s.
But listen, like Wicked, a lot of people like Wicked.
So this is my point. So I think people that are now in their mid 30s, give or take, Wicked was the musical of their generation. I think people that are now in their early 40s, Rent was the musical of their generation. And I think those of us in our late 40s, early 50s, Les Miserables was the musical, and Phantom of the Opera were the musicals of our generation. More Les Miserables, though, or Les Mis.
I don't know. I don't think that's true. I don't think age has.
I think for theater kids, though,
Okay.
you can say that, but I was a theater kid. And let me tell you, there are musicals that you listen to every day, every single day, that you sing when no one else, when your parents go to the mall, and you belt your heart out dreaming of being able to sing these roles on a stage, any stage. And so for me, that was Les Miserables.
Okay.
Not Cosette, Eponine. But anyway, I didn't play
What
any of
do
them.
you have against Cosette?
She's all opera head voice.
I see.
And Eponine is all about the mix. She was one of those characters that really initiated the mix voice, meaning you can mix your head and chest voice at the same time. Miss Saigon, which the same creators, which came after, was all mixed as well. Leah
see.
Salonga.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so for me, my generation's musical, and I was like 12 or so when Les Miserables came out, so prime. If I was going to be into musicals, that was the time for me. So, yeah. And then, by the time I was in my 20s, Rent came out. So people who were 5 years younger than me, they were listening to that at home on their CD players.
I like Rent.
Yeah, I like Rent too, but you don't sing it ever. I've never gotten in the car and Rent is blasting. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And then Wicked came, probably a good 10 years after that. And then Wicked was, and I say this with love and respect. When I toured a show 10 years ago, there were performers in their early to mid 20s. This was 10 years ago, so now they're in their early to mid 30s. And they knew Wicked the way they knew the alphabet. I mean, and Alphaba. Like, they all wanted to be either Glenda or Alphaba. They could tell you who played what role and who subbed in for what role on Broadway. I mean, they loved Wicked.
Did I see Wicked with you?
I don't think so.
I saw it with what's her name in it, the green one.
Idina Menzel.
Yeah, with her
Playing Elphaba,
Yeah.
the green one, a.k.a. the green one.
For me, Wicked was Act 2 was a photocopy of Act 1.
Listen, we're not here to be Wicked bashers because people who love Wicked love Wicked.
Okay.
And same as we forget this about Rent, but I lived with my dear, dear friend Wade, loved Rent.
Okay.
Loved it. So, each generation has its musical.
Sure.
I don't know what 12-year-olds today are in love with. Dear Evan Hansen, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what the musical is.
The Color Purple has a great soundtrack.
It does. I don't know. I mean, sometimes time will tell. There's a lot that come out, and then one kind of keeps getting revived or keeps getting used as audition pieces as the years go on. But who knows? But
Okay, so if you were to recommend 3 musicals for the average person who doesn't go see musicals, but they might come to their town or a nearby town.
right.
And you're like, if you get a chance, definitely go see blank, blank. Oh, and don't forget blank.
Okay. So I like a musical. You know what I like about a musical? I'm realizing, kind of cataloging some of the musicals that I really do love and have cherished over the years. I love it when there's a show within a show.
Like a meta type thing?
So, for example, Cabaret.
Oh, I see.
I was in when I was in university. I was a Kit Kat girl dancing on a table.
How old were you?
20?
Oh, okay.
No, 19, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. Old enough. All right, so I thought. But Cabaret is, it takes place in this Berlin cabaret, right?
Right.
So it's a show within a show. You're the audience of this cabaret, and it's also a show about the people that work and live in this cabaret setting. So I think there's something really fun about that.
The music's also good and very memorable.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of your recos, or are you just
Out of
giving
the
us an
3,
example?
yeah, I'm going to
Okay.
use that as out of one of the 3. It's a very powerful message.
Sure.
It has lasting power. It's
Good
fun and it's
dancing.
showy. Great dancing, but there's a dark sort of quality.
Sure.
So even if you don't like musicals, you might find it powerful.
It's like the antithesis of Bye Bye Birdie, which has nothing going on.
Yes, they're very different
They're
musicals.
very different. How great would it be to have a mashup of Bye Bye Birdie
Or you could do it in rep. Yeah.
where you're watching Bye Bye Birdie, but then all of a sudden the cast of Cabaret comes in and starts singing about themes that you wouldn't expect in Bye Bye Birdie.
Right. Well,
Bye Bye Cabaret. Imagine that. That'd be awesome.
would it?
It would be if I directed it.
Okay. Next one, I'm going to go with a classic. So Cabaret came out in the 70s. This next musical came out in the 50s. Gypsy, about the life and times of Gypsy Rose Lee. Again, a show within a show. And you see these kids performing on vaudeville, doing the Orpheum circuit from childhood to their teens, right up to adulthood. And I identify, there's so much about Gypsy that I love just personally.
Mm-hmm.
It was my mom's favorite musical. So as children, it became our favorite musical.
By proxy.
Sort of. But there's a lot. It wasn't just because she loved it. It was also because we were kids that grew up performing. So we saw ourselves in these children. And as an adult, I ended up doing a show that I was just talking about, that toured for 3 years. And I realized somewhere along the line, oh, wow, I am doing the Orpheum circuit. All these old Orpheum, Pantages houses, Fox theaters. There was a couple different chains of theaters that were big at the turn of the century through to sort of mid-century that were vaudeville that became burlesque, and that's what Gypsy's about. It's about the history of American theater, really.
I see. And does it have a memorable song or two in it?
Oh, so many.
Like?
They're all memorable. I mean, Everything's Coming Up Roses. Everyone knows that song.
I often do this to Amanda where I'm like, what song came out of that musical? And Amanda has to mention a song.
That's not my favorite song from the show. It's probably my least favorite song from the show. But it's that song of like showbiz people, like we're just going to keep going no matter what.
Right.
So anyway, and then the third, I'm going to go out of the box and talk about one that's very recent.
Oh, I wasn't expecting this.
And this is Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
Okay, put that on your list, folks.
Yeah, it was on Broadway. It was off Broadway about 10 years ago and probably on Broadway about 7 years ago, depending on when you're listening to this or later. But it's now being done in sort of regional theaters and so on a little bit. And it's part of War and Peace. It's like a chapter of the book War and Peace.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's Russian. It's staged in a very immersive way.
Is it dark and dour like I expect it to be?
There's dark themes. There's light themes. There's lots of characters. I did not expect to love it as much as I did.
Is it fun? Because that doesn't sound...
It is fun.
Okay.
Off the top, they're singing about how you as an audience member need to really look into your program and you need to learn about these people. And so they keep singing it repetitively.
Oh, that's okay.
So they're like, okay, you need to learn about this. And she loves him, but he doesn't love her, but he loves her. But
okay.
So they're having a lot of fun with it. They're playing the accordion, they're playing the guitar as they're singing.
Okay. Because when you said it's about the first chapter of War and Peace, that doesn't sound like fun to me. But when you're describing it now...
For some people it is. For Tolstoy it is.
I guess. I mean,
Did Tolstoy write War and Peace? I don't even know.
That's your department. I don't know. When we play Jeopardy, anything book-wise, Russian lit, I give Amanda to answer. But, that's not what I expect when you say it's about War and Peace. That sounds like more fun, something more my speed.
It's one story within War and Peace.
Okay.
So it's called Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. And yes, Tolstoy did write War and Peace.
That's what I said.
Got our producers to fact check.
Okay. Amanda checks on her. We should mention, because you've mentioned this a couple of times, and our listeners, when they hear that, they want to know, what was this touring show you were in that toured the Orpheum circuit?
Gosh. So that show was called Spank, a 50 Shades of Grey parody. So 50 Shades of Grey was real big in like 2010 to 2012. The show came out in 2012. And the company that put it together did so very quickly. They wrote a bunch of sort of funny sketches and made a narrative out of it, more or less. And it sold so much and so well that within weeks of creating the first cast, they created a second cast, knowing that they needed cast members to sub in and out. So they needed, an American and Canadian to play the role of the E.L. James role. I played the author who is having a glass of wine at home and making up these explicit things that she can only dream of that are, ridiculous, and using audience suggestions to incorporate it into the narrative. And so that's what I did. And
I only say that because some of our listeners may have seen you and they're like, oh my goodness, did I see her? Because you toured for quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And not that you'll mention it, but I will. Amanda won 3 Broadway World Awards for that particular show she was in.
And lots in Nashville and in Denver and in Toronto.
Yeah.
But the theaters were one of the things I remember most about that tour. Looking up, and there would be stars, lights in the ceiling. These gorgeous theaters that were made in the early 1900s or even prior.
Sure.
And and that's what they're used for, is mostly touring shows or big budget shows. And they're just spectacular. The history of theater in America is a rich and wonderful thing.
Now, notice how Amanda doesn't ask me what my 3 musicals are that I would
recommend. What are your 3 favorite musicals, Marco?
No, not what are my 3 favorite, the ones I would recommend to listeners to go see.
Well, those are my 3 that I'll recommend.
Because I know that you like West Side Story as well. And that
there's
was
lots, but it depends on who you are.
Right. I know, but you're like, if the question was, what if there's a person who has a show coming to town that you would say you should definitely check this out? So I'm going to recommend my 3.
Okay.
So one would be The Producers.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy The Producers. I think it's really funny. I really like the music. From a comedic standpoint, from a visual standpoint, I got to see my friend on Broadway, Sarah Cornell, play Ula, and I got to try on her eagle helmet that she wore. That's like 5 feet high. It was great.
Amazing.
So I would recommend The Producers.
It's such a fun show.
Another musical I would recommend, I really enjoy The Color Purple. I saw it with you, a matinee on Broadway when we were working on a ship, performing on a ship. We
had a day off in New York,
And we're like, let's see if we can get tickets. And we went to go see Fantasia in The Color Purple, and it was a matinee, so we didn't think there was a likelihood that she wasn't going to do the matinee, and she did, and it was marvelous.
She was marvelous, and we haven't seen the movie yet where she stars in it, but my God, she was great.
Yeah, I don't know about the movie, but I'll tell you this. I think as a live experience, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to mention Les Mis because we've already sort of top end of the
But
program.
that said, Les Mis is always a good time if you want to see French people singing.
I really, really enjoy the musical that our friend wrote that I can't think of the name of right now. Chris Bond wrote that is a lot.
Evil Dead,
Evil
the
Dead,
musical?
the musical. Evil
How
Dead,
did
the
you
musical.
forget
I don't know.
that?
I was getting it confused with the other one.
Yeah,
that
he's
is-
written a few,
okay,
so that's fair.
Evil Dead, the musical, for me,
And it's coming back to Toronto, I think.
is so great. And I know it's based on a horror film, but the music is great. It's a fun
It
time.
is a great show.
And I think I like to go to musicals and have a fun
Mm-hmm.
time of laughter.
Yeah.
And so Water for Elephants was not that. So
It was a lovely musical. I'm going to say I feel like if we'd sat closer to the stage, maybe we would have liked it more. But then again, I don't know.
no, I need a musical where I can sit far away from and enjoy as if I was close.
Sure.
If the musical is you need to be close to see the elephant close, to buy it, it's not for me. And I made a great joke. And I said to Amanda, we have to wait till halftime to see the elephant because the elephant from Lion King has to walk itself over to the theater. I still think it's a funny joke.
My joke was I called it Water for Melephants. So
And
there you go.
And we'll leave you with that. Let us know what your favorite musical is or a musical you would recommend. Of course, you can always do that on our Instagram, which is, of course, available to you, called the Insomnia Project. Sorry, at the Insomnia Project, because our Twitter, which I'm not on that much, is called Listen and Sleep. But however you want
It's
to
also
reach
not
out,
called Twitter anymore.
whatever, X.
Exactly. So we're not on it a lot.
We're not on it ever since they changed the name.
And let's be honest, you're not on it a lot either.
Right. So,
You the listener, I mean.
you don't know.
Wow. If you're a listener that really would like us to engage in our X account, please do let us know if you happen to still be awake.
But do it on Instagram. All right. Until next time, we hope you were able to listen and sleep.